Fine, anything, just anywhere you want to go. Great.
Fantastic. Going back to your childhood, do you remember growing up a time when music started to play an important role in your life?
Yeah, ever since I could remember, my dad was a big fan of country music, and when I was about 12 or 13 years old, Elvis kind of broke out, and I had been aware of various rock and roll songs before Elvis, but when Elvis came along, that's really what kick-started my inner fire, if you will, for music. And I always loved Hank Williams because my dad loved him, but Elvis was kind of the new thing, so I immediately loved everything that Elvis did, and started just singing all kinds of songs. Of course, Ricky Nelson was right in there too in that same period. Ricky Nelson was on a television show, the Ozzie and Harriet, and so I was really into those three guys. They were really what kick-started me.
Talking about your early bands, there was a band called the Triumphs that you were involved with. What can you tell us about them?
Well, the Triumphs were just a bunch of young guys who were friends of my brother's, and we had moved from Houston to a small country town, and they were friends of my brother's. They were all about 15, 16, and they were starting a band, and they didn't have anyone to sing for them. And my brother told them, "Hey, my brother Billy can sing like Ricky Nelson." So he took me over there, and of course I was very against it. I was a very introverted, shy person, and I guess still am in a lot of ways. But I eventually got up and sang a Buddy Holly song, and Johnny Be Good, or whatever I knew with this band, and we just kind of clicked, and I became their singer, and we were called the Triumphs.
Do you remember being particularly ambitious back in those days?
Well, no, I don't remember being really very ambitious. Although I did have that burning desire for the music, so I did love to sing with a band. We played for fairly big crowds on the weekends. This country, just kids out in the country at the big dance halls, and maybe there might be 800 to 1,500 people. 100 kids there, but we were basically just playing for dances, and we weren't really performing, just reproducing the music. So it wasn't like it really had never entered my head to a very serious degree that that a part of this music I was doing was performing. So that was something that kind of, when I had my first hit record, that kind of caught me by surprise. Hey, I better learn how to be in front of people and look right, not just standing around singing, So, but I wasn't that ambitious. Although I love to do the music, and we did seek out record companies that we could record for, and we did have a few local hit records, and they played our records every now and then on the radio in Houston.
So, was it a big decision for you at the time to break away from that band and pursue the solo career?
Well, yeah, it was very serious to me, John, but the decision was made for me, because when we had "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry," the old Hank thing, and it went #1 in Houston, and Dick Clark, a national company, picked it up, Scepter Records out of New York City. They picked it up and they started going big nationally in America, and they contacted me. Dick Clark wanted me to go on one of his tours, and so I was going no matter what, and the band didn't want to go, because one of the requirements was that my band would back up the rest of the cavalcade of stars. There was probably a dozen other acts, and they didn't want to do that. They had said, no, we're not going to do that. A couple of guys were going to college and working for their fathers and blah blah. So they didn't want to go, and I told them, well, I'm going, and I'm gonna, if I have to, I'll put together another band, and I'm gonna go. And they said, okay, So we didn't really split up on bad terms. It was just they weren't going to take a chance on going, and they weren't going to quit college or anything. And I don't blame them, but there was no way I was not going. I put together another band with a friend of mine, Glenn Spreen, and we put together a band, and we went out.
I was interested to read that you cited Jackie Wilson as an influence on your vocal style. What was it about Jackie's style that really got to you?
Well, I think it was the way he would move his voice around on certain words and kind of make you feel like he really believed what he was singing. And I'm sure that he did in a way, but that was influenced in that way by a lot of R&B singers, the black singers. When I was a kid, they were the best singers of my time until Elvis came along and kind of equaled them. But when they sang, they would move their voice around vocally, do licks and little trills and things, and Jackie Wilson was the best at that. And so it influenced me, and not that I sound anything like Jackie Wilson, but it influenced me to emphasize certain feelings and certain words in the song to further to make it more convincing.
So looking back now, what do you consider to be your first big break in your music career? When did you feel things started to really turn around for you?
Well, I always kind of had dreamt about having a hit record and things, but when I'm So Lonesome, it became a #1 song in Houston in 3 weeks, so it was almost like an overnight thing. When it became such a hit record, and I went out with Dick Clark, and I started rolling in that sense, then that had to be my biggest break. That was very accidental because I just recorded the song for my dad. I had no idea it was a hit record. I put it on the B side of what we thought was a hit, and it just kind of the disc jockey at the top 40 station, a guy named Bob White, just did me the courtesy of saying, well, he didn't like what we thought was the A side, and he said, well, let me listen to the other side while you're here, B. And we were good buddies, and when he played that, that was my big break, because he fell in love with the song and played it, and subsequently I was signed to a national label and went out on tour, and I've been touring ever since.
Mm. You had a long succession of hit singles during the 60s and 70s. Which for you has stood the test of time the most?
Well, of course, Raindrops. I'm sorry. Raindrops is my mainstay and the main thing that I'm known for. But Hooked on a Feeling, Just Can't Help Believing. A lot of things I recorded in Memphis. I happened to be lucky enough to get into Memphis, Tennessee, and start recording with the American Studio Group, and they were making lots of hit records. And so Just Can't Help Believing, Hooked on a Feeling, and of course Raindrops Keep Falling. They're the rock and roll lullaby. They're my main. They're the main things I think that still stand up. I'm So Lonesome is kind of dated, and Mama is rather dated now, even though I still do them. But a lot of the songs still are worthy.
Do you remember your first impressions of the song Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head when you first heard it? Could you comprehend the hit that it became?
Well, you always, when you're recording, you always feel like, you want to believe that what you're doing is going to be successful. But Raindrops was, I kind of had that feeling with Hooked on a Feeling too. But when I did Raindrops, I just knew it was going to be a smash. I mean, it was just had everything going for it. It was going to be in a movie with Paul Newman. The music was composed by Burt Bacharach, and of course the great lyrics were done by Hal David, and it just had so much going for it that I felt positive that it was going to be a hit record.
Yeah. You mentioned the American Studio Group. You hit on a magic formula there with the musicians there, and working with Chips Moman as producer. What are your memories of the working relationships there?
Oh, well, just great memories. Yeah, of course, Chips was a great producer, and they were making, for a couple of years running, they had 20% of the pop chart here in America, which was quite an achievement for that time because, that was during the Beatles were around, and Motown was around, Stax, so they were competitive, very, very competitive. I think really the magic to that whole thing was it was a live band. We were doing everything at one time. I wasn't going back and redoing my vocals and trying to make them perfect. We just took them as they came when the track was done. There was a realness about it. Of course, the material was, it wasn't Beethoven or anything, but the material was good songs. They had some great writers. Wayne Carson and Mark James, and of course Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil. There was some great writers around in that time writing really good pop music, and they just had a lot going for it. But I think that the overall live performance of the thing was what made it work.
Yeah. Through the years, your music has covered many genres. How important has it been for you to diversify into different genres of music through that time?
Well, it's been very important. I mean, I think that whole thing was set up for me. That whole philosophy was set up by Elvis. Elvis, even though when he hit big with his first rock and roll things, he still recorded gospel and sang a lot of spiritual music. So I was kind of motivated in that way too. And I had the first 4 platinum albums in gospel music history here around the world, and so I'm glad I did it. I mean, I didn't think I was going to make the first platinum record, but I'm glad I was influenced to do that. And then, of course, I've done a lot of country stuff, and it was all just lucky, really. I wasn't thinking about trying to be different or diversify or anything. I was just doing the songs that I could identify with, and the songs that made me feel good, and it just worked out well.
Those gospel records were an outstanding achievement. They must hold a special place for you now.
Well, they do. Yeah, they do. Of course, we had I say we, my wife. I've been married to Gloria for 41 years, and we had a spiritual awakening back in the mid '70s, and so it was just a natural thing to express it musically, and so it does hold a significant place in my heart. In my heart now, I still perform the songs almost every show. And I'm not in the gospel business as we speak, but I am going in the studio this coming Wednesday, and so I'm going to start laying down some tracks, and we plan on doing some gospel things too.
Now, it's been well documented through the years that you've had some tough times as well, battling addictions. I don't want to dwell on it here, but was there a defining moment where you decided it was time, you just had to get your life back in order?
Yeah, I don't mind you asking about it, but it is a part of pretty much part of public record. Yeah, I was kind of, during my time, there was a lot of you felt like just to be hip, you needed to use drugs, and so I did have quite a significant addiction over the years, and which caused me, of course, a lot of personal. It's tough to live your life anyway, much less if you put yourself under the influence of alcohol and drugs. And I'm not, I'm not a big, how would you put it? I'm not big on just no one drinking or no one abusing drugs. I think everybody has their own experience, and they have to get through it. But when you open yourself up to the drugs, especially that we have now, you're opening yourself up to a tremendous addiction, and a lot of the drugs that we have now and back then, they were almost impossible to get off of once you started. So I feel very fortunate. I did get to a place where we were married for, of course, a number of years, and we had a little baby, and it was time, and we both talked about it. Also, trying to live out your life with the spotlight on you all the time is kind of tough. So we just decided to, get out of music and get out of the whole deal. We came back down to Texas. We were living in New York. We came back down to Texas and just kind of rededicated ourselves to having more kids and being normal. And of course, the gospel thing came up, and I did kind of get back into recording. And now, of course, I've stayed involved all my life. But you're right. Just as you put it, there came a time when I felt like I needed to get right, and I'm glad. I'm glad I found the will and the strength to do it.
And so are we. Thank you. You've been the recipient of some Grammy Awards through the years. Do those awards have more significance for you now as you look back over your career than perhaps at the time when you were so much in the spotlight and there was so much happening?
Absolutely. Yeah, they hold also a dear place to me now. I'm very proud of them. But it all comes quite unexpectedly. You're just doing the music, and you're not thinking about, I'm going to win a Grammy. So it was all great. The great part of it was being recognized by my peers as doing something that was worthwhile, and so yeah, it's very important to me now, and I appreciate it greatly.
I was interested to learn that Brazil is probably your largest market outside the United States. What do you attribute that to?
Gosh, I don't know. Excuse me. But they love, almost anywhere you go in the world, they're still playing 60s and 70s American music. Of course, Australia's been very important and added to that overall picture too. You've had some great music come out of there, and I don't know. There's just something about it. Maybe they love the smooth sound, or I think. Brazilian, South American people are very romantic, as well. We all are, but especially there, they love that romantic. It's kind of sexy, I guess, to them, and that's what they like about it.
Now, not too long ago, you recorded your first studio album in quite a few years. It must have been a great feeling to get back into the studio again, making new music.
Yeah, I've kind of been recording off and on, but the business has changed, and that's just the nature of music. It's like who's new and who's the new guy and what's the new thing. And I think especially in America, the music has not made a great turn. I don't think there's a real mainstream love of any of the music really that's going on now. Maybe country has kind of taken off on, but so my recording has kind of slowed down quite a bit. But we did record 12 of the classic Brazilian songs for South America, and now we're speaking to some people here in the States, and maybe one of our big corporations here we're talking to right now will take on the record and make it available. If not, we make it available online, and that's the way we have to go now.
I believe the internet has been quite influential in getting your career, getting some renewed interest in your career.
Who? I'm sorry.
The internet has been very, very influential. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it gives everyone, not just some of us, the older guys, but it gives everyone a chance to make their music available to who might be interested. And it's almost like there's I'm kind of, I guess I'm considered old school now, but people who like the old school music, they need to hear it now more than ever. So there's a reason to still be involved, but the internet really helps greatly in that sense.
Tell us about your involvement in the movie Jake's Corner.
Jake's Corner. Well, it was a movie, a screenplay, and the movie was done by a guy who is the son of a very prominent baseball player from here, Major League Baseball player Ron Santo. His son Jeff wrote the screenplay, and it was just basically a thing where I just had to just be myself. Really, I played a Vietnam vet by the name of Doc, and it was a lot of fun. We just relaxed and had fun with it. I only had a few days off from touring, and I had done a movie back in the 70s, and Gloria and I both discussed it and decided that trying to pursue a movie career and also be a musician would even take more away from the family. So I kind of hung up my interest in movies, but it was glad that I had a lot of fun. I was glad to get a little part there, and we had a great time with it.
And just before I let you go, BJ, if you could jump in a time machine and go back and talk to the young B.J.Thomas just embarking on his career, what would be the advice you would give him?
Well, I don't want to be too serious about it. So I don't know if you want me to be very serious.
No.
But in all honesty, I would, if I had to speak to the young BJ, I would tell him to stay sober and keep his focus. One of the major detriments and tragedies of a young life is to be diverted into drugs and alcohol. And my saving grace was music. I mean, this all kind of happened over the years. I had to quit. I quit smoking cigarettes because it was hurting my throat. I quit using dope because it was preventing me from expressing myself musically. It was hurting my family, and so if I could speak to the young guy, I'd just tell him, hey, stay sober, keep your focus, pay attention to your music. I'm one of the lucky guys. It worked out for me anyway. I've got my wife. I've got 3 great children who are married. I've got 3 grandchildren. I've had just this unbelievably wonderful life, which hopefully will go on for many decades from now. But that would be my advice. My advice is to stay sober, stay focused, and try to love yourself and love other people, because that seems to be the way it works.
That's sound advice. BJ, thanks so much for your time. It's an honour to catch up with you today.
Well, thank you, John, and I appreciate it. And you just call me anytime. I love to talk to you. Say hello. I want to give my appreciation to you and all the people down under. I appreciate it. Hopefully, I can come down and see you soon. It's
been a while. We'd love to see you down here again. Yeah.
I'd love to do it, buddy. All right, mate. Thank you.
All the best. Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.